comment, tell me what you think. But this is a message to all the haters and the naysayers. So, I recently came upon a video of a woman who's probably close to 50 years old talking about another YouTube mom who is trying to have a child, and she's in her, late 30s, like myself. And if most of you guys already know, I started having children after 30. My first child, my 5-year-old, was born when I was 31. My second child was born when I was 34. And my third child was born when I was 30, after I turned 37, because he's due in October, and I turned 37 in August. So, hey, what's up, Sean? Yeah, so for the people that want to hate on women who wait until their 30s to have children, I just want to say that there are some actual benefits to having kids in your 30s. Like, despite what you may have heard, believe it or not, the overall risk of having children in your 30s is pretty low, especially if you're a healthy person. I'm doing pretty good, Sean. How about you? The overall risk for having children after 30 is pretty low if you're a healthy individual. Like, there are some people who have fertility issues, but there's women in their 20s who have fertility issues. And I, for one, can speak mainly for myself. I have had 0 fertility issues. And like I said, I have had, 3 kids back to back, and I'm the 4th one now. So I've not had to take any medication or see a doctor about fertility whatsoever. I just took my birth control out and started having children when I was ready. And the reason I waited until I was in my 30s is because when I was in my 20s, I did not own a home. I didn't actually purchase my first home until I was 30. So that was the main reason. I didn't want to be in an apartment with a child. I know there's plenty of people that do that and it works for them, but for me, I wanted to have a home, a backyard, a fenced-in backyard for my child to play in. That was really important to me. My sister was 38 when my niece was born. See, there's plenty of people who have healthy, viable pregnancies well in their 30s and sometimes even in their early 40s. So there's that. There's the fact that the overall health risk for having children in your 30s is pretty low. The main reason is financial stability. Like, most of the time when you're in your early 20s, you don't have your own place. You're still in college. You're still trying to figure out what you're trying to do with your life career-wise. And you don't have generally an established relationship. Whereas when you're 30-something, you're a little more mature because you've been around the block a few times. You know what it is that you're looking for in a relationship. And so does your partner generally if they're over 32. So it's like, just having financial stability, established career, established relationships, that leads to an overall less regret. Because when you jump into relationships when you're very young, early 20s and stuff like that, having kids, a lot of times those relationships, number one, don't last. And 2, there's regret. Because sometimes people feel like they've missed out on something. Like, while all their friends are going out partying and going clubbing and taking trips, here you are stuck being a parent. And here is a very, very, very interesting fact, and which leads me to think about, not necessarily saying that I will, but it leads me to think about having another child, but waiting a couple years, because I think that after this one, we will have our hands full. Let's be real. A 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a newborn is going to be a lot come October. So we may wait a few years, but I was thinking about having a kid by the time I'm 40, because due to some research I had found out, and you guys can even Google this if you want, if you don't believe me, women who have children in their late 30s and early 40s tend to have a longer lifespan. Now, it could just be, the fact that, you're living longer simply because you want to be around for your child, or it could be some other genetic factor. But they do say that having children and being pregnant for 10 months, like most of us are, is almost like working out every day. And I can tell that based on my activity watch here. Most of the time, I'm taking, 15 to 20,000 steps a day, because my strides are a lot shorter because of my weight distribution. I have a lot of weight right on top of my pelvis, so my steps tend to be a little shorter now. So I'm taking more steps. The overall weight gain, having an extra 20 pounds on my body, especially generalized in my abdomen, causes me to breathe a little harder. It causes me to pick up, more pace in my heartbeat. And just the fact that my body has to pump more blood to another human being that's inside of me is going to burn more calories. And it just, overall, being pregnant, if you are a healthy person, it just does your body wonders. Like, it ages you backwards in some cases, because a lot of times people are like, oh, your skin is glowing and you look so refreshed and things like that, and you're just like, I just woke up, like. But it's something being pregnant does to you that helps you just be more youthful and healthy. Like, it's weird, but it's also because of how you treat your body and how you diet and exercise too. So if you're the kind of person that's pigging out, gaining 80 to 100 pounds each pregnancy, this isn't the topic of conversation for you. I'm talking about the people who stick within the normal guidelines of weight gain and who generally eat a healthy diet. If you don't, then that is what it is. These are new generations of having kids at 18 or early 20s out of wedlock, like they want to be a baby mama. Yeah, and I don't know what that's about, to be honest. I think a lot of times people are looking for love in all the wrong places, like that song. Ignore these haters and keep doing you, sis. So thank you, Sean. And I certainly will. But I'm making this video because you have people who have these misconceptions about, pregnancies in their 30s, and they want to call them geriatric pregnancies because of the past knowledge. We're in 2025. And if you do a little more research, you will come to find out that having children in your 30s is actually healthier for you as well as your child than it is to be a teenager and having children. Why? Because first of all, teenagers aren't even fully developed yet. So for the people who want to have kids at 13, 14, 15, they tend to have the shorter lifespans, and they tend to have more issues going down the line dealing with their uterus and their reproductive system. Sometimes they can damage themselves beyond repair and they can't even have kids anymore. So these are facts. These are things you can literally Google right now if you do not believe me, because like I said, there's just people who have these misconceptions about people who have kids later in life, and it's like, no, it's actually healthier for you. And like I said, people who have children after 30 tend to live longer. Now, I know that some people say that after 40 there's a higher chance of like genetic disorders, and that can be true for some people, but it's definitely not all. And I think that's more so after 45. If you're 45 and having kids, yes, you are more susceptible to genetic disorders for your child. Why do you look like Felicia from the movie Friday? You know what? This is my, it's 100-degree weather hair day. I'm not trying to mess up my hair right now. I just needed something cool and, refreshing to kind of get my hair off my neck. Like, you guys, I'm telling you, I have the thickest hair possible. This is not weave at all. This is literally all my hair. And so when you think about it, and this is what it looks like braided, you can only imagine what it's like when it's not. So it's almost like I'm wearing a blanket on top of my head and neck all day. And it's been getting up to 100 degrees where I'm at, and it's just too hot. It's just too hot to deal with it. Not all, but most. I mean, I always am one to say not all, but most, because you can't speak in absolutes. You know what I mean? Not in this day and age. There will always be that anomaly. But I, for one, just want to make a video in response, I guess, to the video that I saw the other day about the woman who was downing another woman for trying to have children in her late 30s. She was calling it geriatric pregnancy and saying that she shouldn't even be trying to have any kids anymore. And now, with this specific individual, I do agree that she probably shouldn't have any more kids, because this child would be number 10. And I'm not joking. Her name, if you know anything about YouTube, is Strong Mommy Chrissy. And she has currently 9 children. And they range from, I want to say, 16 or 17 down to like 4 or 5. So for her, yeah, you should probably stop, especially since the fact that you're not married, and especially because of the fact that you admitted that you have, at least from what you're willing to admit, 6 different children's fathers. So in her case, yeah, you should not be having any more kids. But the woman in the video was trying to say it's because she's in her 30s, and it's like, no, I don't think that age is really in question here, because there's some people that wait to have children. Like I said, my oldest is only 5. So by me, being in my late 30s, it's like a different story. I didn't start having kids at 16 like Strong Mommy Chrissy did. I started having children at 31. After, like I said, I already owned a home, and then me and my husband got married, and now we're having more children. We kept the other house. It's a rental property now, so we're established. We're not struggling whatsoever. It's just a chance, kind of like sleeping with someone with a condom. Sure, nothing could happen, but that's how STDs and pregnancies happen. Yeah, so basically, when it comes to Strong Mommy Chrissy, yeah, you should be done. Not because of the fact that you're over 30. I think she should be done just simply off the fact that you have 9 children already, and you 100% are living on the government, let's be real, and you don't have a husband, and it's just not a good look. It's just not a good look to keep procreating with different men and having all these different men around your children and stuff like that. If anything, you should focus on the kids you got. Make sure that they're getting good education and everything that you can provide them. Adding another child to the mix is just going to take away from them, especially because you're a single mom. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much you can do for 9 people. Like, then you want to add a newborn to the mix. You're absolutely going to be relying on the children at that point to help each other, and that's just not fair. You don't have kids and then expect them to take care of each other. That's just not how being a parent works. Just throwing that out there. But I don't think that the reason she should not have children is just because she's over 30. I mean, over 30 means you have more patience for children. When you're in your 20s, you're kind of self-centered. You're only thinking about yourself and what you want and what you want to attain out of life. Whereas if you are a little older, you've lived a little bit already, so you've been around the block, you got a little more street smarts, so it's like you're just a little bit more patient, a little bit more understanding of children. And, that may lead to less abuse in some situations. So, and like I said, just the overall risk of having children in your late 30s is not as high as other people try to make it seem. Now, if you're in your late 40s, then maybe those things can be a little bit more true, because you're edging toward menopause at that point. But it's very rare that a woman in her 30s is anywhere near menopause. And so those risk factors they're just not there. And so I just wish people would, I guess, refrain from saying those things, because it's kind of offensive to us moms who have waited. And the reason I, for one, waited is because I wanted to make sure that my child didn't grow up in an apartment. Because I spent most of my 20s either with my parents in my early 20s, and then after I grew up and got out the house, all I had was an apartment up until 30. And not judging anybody who does live in an apartment, and if that's okay for you and your family, it is what it is. But for me, just for me, I was not gonna be cool with that, because I watched other people in my apartment complex try to raise kids, and it's just not an environment. They can't be themselves. Children need to be able to play, roughhouse a little bit. And you can only do so much of that in an apartment, because you don't want the noise factor to be an issue, and then you're getting complaints, and then you have to tell your children to sit down and be quiet, and you're stifling them and their learning and growth at that point. So I'm not here to, like I said, judge anybody, but personally, I just think you should have your career established. I think you should have yourself a decent savings. You should have at least one of your cars paid off. Like, you know what I mean? If you even have more than one. Some people only choose to have one car, but when you're in a relationship that's established, you have more than one car. If you're in a relationship that's established, you may even have more than one home. And that kind of thing just leads to a better future for the children, because at that point, if anything happens to you, you have equity, you have property that you can leave your child. Whereas if you're in an apartment, what are you leaving them? Dead? So, I don't know. Just my thoughts. I know I'm just a simple, minded female, and some people think that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think I do. And some of this stuff just needs to be said. So, anyways, that's all I think I have for today. Nothing too juicy, nothing too crazy. Just wanted to put some real information that, again, you can go out there and research for yourself if you don't believe what I said is true. It's absolutely credited information. You can look on Wikipedia, you can look on Google, which are pretty good sources if we're being real. So check it out. Learn for yourself. Educate yourself. There's nothing wrong with knowing more rather than just jumping to conclusions or going off old information. Things that may have been true for some women in the 1950s and 60s are not true now. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. And I will see you all next time.